Make no mistake, empathy is not weak or woke. And by the way, woke just means you give a damn about other people.
Jane Fonda just went nuclear on Donald Trump, and it might be the most savage takedown we've seen this year. The legendary actress didn't just criticize him, she systematically dismantled his biggest lies with the precision of someone who's been fighting frauds for decades. While politicians and journalists dance around Trump's nonsense, Fonda walked right up and called him exactly what he is. And Trump's reaction? Let's just say his Truth Social meltdown proves she hit him where it hurts. Stick around to see how an 86-year-old icon made the former president look like a whiny toddler. Quick favor before we move on. If you appreciate this content, consider giving this video a like and subscribing to the channel. Believe it or not, more than 92% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. It's free and only takes a second, but it means the world to us. So did you subscribe already? Great, thank you so much for your support. Now back to the video. Let me paint you a picture of what went down when Jane Fonda decided she'd had enough of Trump's nonsense.
And I'm sure many of you guys have played bullies and misogynists. Job is to understand another human being so profoundly that we can touch their souls. We know why they do what they do.
This wasn't just some celebrity casually throwing shade. This was a Hollywood legend unleashing years of pent-up frustration in one glorious unfiltered moment that left the entire studio audience with their jaws on the floor. The takedown happened during what started as a pretty standard talk show appearance. The conversation had been flowing normally, you know, the usual celebrity chit-chat about upcoming projects and fond memories. But when the host casually mentioned something about climate activism, something visibly shifted in Fonda's demeanor. Her posture straightened, her eyes narrowed, and everyone watching at home could practically feel the temperature in the studio drop. Oh boy, the host probably thought, here we go. What happened next was like watching a masterclass in how to dismantle someone's entire public persona without breaking a sweat.
Any of you ever watched a documentary of one of the great social movements, like apartheid or our civil rights movement or Stonewall, and asked yourself, would you have been brave enough to walk the bridge? And while you may hate the behavior of your character, you have to understand and empathize with the traumatized person you're playing, right? Thinking Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice.
Fonda didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Instead, she spoke with the calm, measured tone of someone who's been in the trenches fighting for causes since before most of us were born. The studio audience initially responded with nervous laughter, that uncomfortable kind when someone says something true but risky on live TV. But that awkward chuckling quickly transformed into stunned silence, punctuated by occasional gasps as Fonda went deeper into her critique. The most immediate fear, Fonda stated with laser precision, is what's happening to our planet because that's not reversible and it's very dire. She paused briefly before adding her second concern. I fear that our democracy is being taken from us. This wasn't just another celebrity opinion. This was Jane Fonda, whose activist credentials include literally getting arrested while fighting for climate justice. The cameras caught the host's expression cycling through surprise, concern, and that unique look TV personalities get when they're mentally calculating how their producers are reacting backstage. Should they let this continue? Cut to commercial, join in. The host ultimately decided to let Fonda cook, and cook she did. With surgical precision, Fonda meticulously dissected Trump's environmental record, his repeated dismissals of climate science, and his rollback of critical protections. She wasn't just throwing around vague accusations. She was hitting him with specific, undeniable facts that landed like body blows. The audience watched, transfixed, as she methodically connected Trump's climate denial to his broader pattern of lies. What gave Fonda's words such weight wasn't just what she said, but who was saying it. This wasn't some overnight activist jumping on a bandwagon. This was Jane Fonda, someone who's been putting her body and reputation on the line for causes she believes in for over half a century. When she speaks about commitment to principles, she's got the receipts to back it up. Perhaps the most devastating portion of Fonda's critique came when she turned to Trump's fake populism. With the skill of someone who's seen charlatans come and go over decades in the public eye, she expertly pulled back the curtain on Trump's Man of the People act. She highlighted his fundamental lack of empathy, his self-centered worldview, and how his policies actually harm the very supporters who cheer the loudest at his rallies. By this point, the audience had moved from shocked silence to occasional murmurs of agreement, with some even breaking into spontaneous applause at her most pointed observations. The mood in the room was electric, that rare moment when someone says out loud what many have been thinking, but few have articulated so perfectly. Throughout this nuclear-level takedown, Fonda maintained the composure of someone who wasn't doing this for attention or clicks. She wasn't shouting or name-calling. She was simply speaking truths that needed to be spoken, with the confidence of someone who's been fighting fraud since Trump was just a failed casino owner from New York. As Fonda wrapped up her thoughts, you could almost hear the collective intake of breath from everyone watching. The host, probably equal parts impressed and terrified about the potential fallout, attempted to lighten the mood with a joke that landed about as well as you'd expect. But it was too late. Fonda had already turned what was supposed to be a light entertainment segment into a moment that would dominate social media for days to come. The entire room knew what they had just witnessed. A masterclass in speaking truth to power from someone who's been doing it since Vietnam. This wasn't just another celebrity hot take. This was Jane Fonda at 86, demonstrating why she remains a force to be reckoned with, taking apart Trump's carefully constructed facade with the ease of someone who's seen it all before. The moment Fonda finished her takedown on live TV, you could practically hear Trump furiously tapping away on his phone. And just like a toddler who can't handle being told no, our former president's reaction didn't disappoint in the predictability department, though it still somehow managed to shock with its sheer childishness. Truth Social became Trump's digital tantrum playground of choice, because of course it did. Where else could he rant without those pesky fact checkers getting in the way? The platform serves as his personal echo chamber, allowing him to bypass traditional media and shoot his unfiltered thoughts directly to his loyal followers. It's like watching someone build their own reality where criticism bounces off like Nerf darts. Trump wasted no time in firing back, and his response was exactly what you'd expect from a man who thinks presidential is just a fancy word for whatever I feel like doing. Rather than addressing any of Fonda's substantive criticisms about climate policy or democratic values, he immediately dove into his favorite strategy, name-calling. He branded her a washed-up actress and a radical left lunatic, and truly the height of sophisticated political discourse. The irony meter exploded when Trump, in the same breath as dismissing Fonda, somehow found space to remind everyone about his supposedly most successful presidency in history. It's like watching someone complain about the restaurant while simultaneously insisting they're the best chef who ever lived. The cognitive dissonance would be impressive if it weren't so concerning. What's particularly telling about Trump's response is how he specifically targeted Fonda's history of activism and her past arrests, trying to paint her dedication to causes as some kind of character flaw. This isn't new territory for Trump. He has a well-established pattern of going after women who criticize him with particularly venomous personal attacks. Remember his feuds with Rosie O'Donnell, Megyn Kelly, Hillary Clinton? The man has a special reserve of spite for women who don't bow to his perceived authority. But here's the beautiful irony that Trump completely missed. His meltdown actually proved Fonda's point better than she ever could. She criticized his temperament and inability to handle criticism, and what does he do? Has a public meltdown proving he can't handle criticism. It's like someone being accused of having anger issues and responding by flipping a table while screaming, "I'm perfectly calm." The lack of self-awareness is almost impressive. By refusing to engage with the substance of Fonda's climate change concerns and instead resorting to childish name-calling, Trump inadvertently validated everything she said about him. His reaction made him appear weak and defensive, not exactly the strongman image he tries so hard to project. Online, Trump's defenders rushed to battle stations, but their counterattacks fell flatter than a MAGA hat run over by an electric car. Many struggled to effectively counter Fonda's points because, unlike typical celebrity critics, her decades of activism gave her words undeniable weight. When someone has been putting their body on the line for causes since Vietnam, dismissing them as just another Hollywood liberal doesn't quite stick. What makes this whole exchange even more fascinating is how differently it landed compared to other celebrity critiques of Trump. We've seen plenty of stars take shots at him over the years, but most come across as carefully crafted PR statements designed to score points without risking too much. Fonda's comments hit differently because they were raw, unfiltered, and delivered with the confidence of someone who has nothing to lose and decades of experience backing her up. The contrast couldn't be clearer. On one side, an 86-year-old activist speaking truth to power with specific factual criticisms. On the other, a former president responding with schoolyard taunts. It wasn't just a political disagreement. It was a stark illustration of maturity versus pettiness playing out in real time. What Trump completely failed to grasp is that by responding so childishly, he turned what might have been a one-day story into a much larger cultural moment. His inability to let any criticism go unanswered, no matter how small, transformed this into something far bigger than a simple disagreement about policy. It became a perfect encapsulation of why so many Americans, especially younger voters, see him as fundamentally unserious and dangerously self-obsessed. What happens when an 86-year-old activist's criticism cuts through the noise better than 1,000 political attack ads? Trump's team never saw the digital tsunami coming. While they were busy crafting the usual Hollywood liberal dismissals, teenagers on TikTok were turning Fonda's takedown into creative content, reaching millions who'd normally scroll past anything political. The numbers tell the story. Within 24 hours, clips of Fonda's comments racked up view counts in the tens of millions across platforms. What started as a talk show segment transformed into a digital phenomenon with shares and engagement metrics that marketing executives would kill for. But this wasn't carefully crafted content. It was raw authenticity that resonated across demographics. Why did this particular critique stick when so many others fizzled out? The timing couldn't have been worse for Trump. With elections approaching and environmental concerns mounting, Fonda's message hit at precisely the moment when voters were paying attention. Her delivery wasn't calculated political theater. It was the real deal from someone with skin in the game. Unlike scripted politician speeches that reek of focus groups and poll testing, her words carried the weight of someone who's been fighting these battles since before many voters were born. The internet's creative response showed exactly why Trump's old playbook isn't working anymore. Side-by-side videos comparing Trump's rage typing with Fonda's composed delivery became instant classics. Digital creators transformed what could have been a forgotten segment into the most remixed political moment in recent memory. Dramatic readings, musical parodies, and meme formats exploded across platforms, each one repackaging the core message in ways that made it even more shareable. You could practically see the generation gap in how media covered the story. Fox News predictably framed it as another celebrity having an unhinged moment, while MSNBC celebrated it as truth-telling. But the real story wasn't happening on cable, it was unfolding in the spaces where younger voters actually get their information. The polarized coverage simply highlighted how different political bubbles process the same information, but in the battle for cultural relevance, traditional media framing barely mattered. Fellow celebrities quickly picked sides. Climate activists like Leonardo DiCaprio amplified Fonda's message, while Trump-friendly celebrities either defended him or stayed conspicuously silent. The dividing lines were predictable, but the volume of support for Fonda revealed something important. Trump's grip on celebrity culture has weakened dramatically since his presidency began. This viral moment didn't happen in isolation. It represents a pattern where Trump consistently loses control of narratives, especially with younger audiences. His brand was built on self-interest and personal gain, which increasingly falls flat against figures like Fonda, who stand for something bigger than themselves. Each time he responds with personal attacks rather than addressing substantive criticism, he reinforces exactly what Fonda suggested, that he views everything through the lens of his own ego. Trump's supporters can dismiss these cultural moments as meaningless celebrity chatter, but deep down, they know the reach is real. Every viral clip chips away at his carefully constructed tough guy image. For voters who grew up in the digital age, authenticity matters more than policy papers, and Trump's increasingly desperate attempts to control his image only make him seem more out of touch. What separated this criticism from the hundreds before, it was how it tapped into genuine concerns rather than partisan talking points. Climate anxiety isn't just a political position for younger voters, it's an existential reality. When Fonda connected Trump's environmental record to their futures, she wasn't just scoring political points, she was articulating fears that keep an entire generation up at night. Her critique felt authentic precisely because it wasn't just about Trump, it was about something bigger. The lasting impact of moments like these isn't measured in polling shifts or donation spikes. It's about changing the cultural conversation and who gets to participate in it. When an exchange between a former president and an activist actor becomes cultural currency for millions, it reveals how political power increasingly flows through channels that traditional political operations struggle to navigate. So what's the big deal with Jane Fonda's takedown of Trump? It's not just the words she said, it's what they represent. This viral moment punched another hole in Trump's carefully crafted tough guy image. His biggest weakness isn't policy debates or political opponents, it's losing the culture war to figures like Fonda who stand for something bigger than themselves. Notice how Trump's meltdown on Truth Social only amplified Fonda's message and made him look weaker. When someone's entire brand is built on image and control, being publicly dismantled by a cultural icon hits different. Trump may still command political rallies, but in the battle for America's soul, the icon just schooled the wannabe icon.